Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Gauranga Nityananda, Gauranga Nityananda, Gauranga Nityananda, Gauranga Nityananda, Shri Krishna Chaitanya, Prabhu Nityananda, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Bol, Hare Bol, Jai Guru Hare Bol, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Hari Hari, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Hare. We'll read some various verses from the Hindu Vaishnava scriptures, especially some of these really juicy ones. So this is from a book called Brihat Bhagavatamrita. It's mainly for those who are actually already usually devotionally inclined, and also maybe with some understanding of the Vaishnava way and teaching and kind of conception. So anyway, I'm going to read anyway, and maybe say a few things about what I'm reading here, maybe to make it a little more understandable for those who may not have that much experience here. So this is called The Ultimate Devotees. Sri Parikshit said, "Hey mother." At once the vibration of the distraught weeping Sri Krishna and his associates pervaded the entire universe, giving birth to numerous dreadful calamities. Knowing that no one besides Sri Krishna could restore peace to the universe, the four-headed Brahma came there accompanied by his associates, all the demigods and all the personified Vedas and Puranas. Brahma saw that his father and guru, Mahanarayan, Sri Krishna, was tormented by love for his dearest devotees. He had fallen into an unprecedented condition. He could understand that the Lord was now anxious to manifest the hidden glories of the sweetness of his devotees, prema, for him. Astonished, Brahma could not keep his composure and momentarily cried out. After carefully composing himself, he began thinking of a way to bring his master back to a peaceful condition. After some time, a plan arose within his heart. Then, after loudly calling out Garuda, who was standing near Sri Bhagavan weeping, to come to him, Brahma carefully said to him, nearby, situated on Mount Rivata and the ocean, Vishvakarma constructed a Sri Vrindavan, which is adorned with murtis and Sri Nandaraya, Sri Yashoda, and other cowherd people, and many cows. It is so splendorous, it seems that it is directly the Vrindavan, which is situated within Mathura Mandala. While Sri Krishna and his elder brother are in this condition, very carefully and slowly take them there. Please take Rohini there also, but no one else. So, the topic of this talk here, I'm sure probably nobody's understood what I was reading there because it's kind of, you need a lot of background. But the topic of the story is a happiness that money can't buy. It's a happiness that money can't buy. And the stories that we read in these kind of books here in the devotional literature of the Vedas is quite interesting because it talks about a happiness and actually can give an entrance into that happiness just by association with the literature. And usually it's a progressive thing because it's kind of unusual and kind of deep stuff. So anyway, here we have a story about Sri Krishna. Sri Krishna to the Hindus or to the Vaishnavas represents actually the Supreme Father, the Father of Jesus, the Father of all, God. And it's said that in these revelations, divine revelations, that God actually comes here and takes on very different particular forms to accomplish particular things that he wants to do in this world. Okay? So one of the forms that the Supreme All took was Krishna. This he incarnated as Krishna. And as you notice, I was reading this story about Krishna, and it's filled with him relating to what are called devotees. See, devotees is basically, it's our soul. The individual soul has a natural devotional relationship with the source, the supreme source. People call God, some people call it different names, Christ, God, Father. But we all have this relationship with that source, and so the thing is, it's usually latent within everyone. It's not awakened yet. It's waiting to be awakened, and the way it awakens is by association with these incarnations, and the incarnations as well as the incarnations devotees. When all these different incarnations actually appear in this world, see, in India they know about this stuff, and the Western mind, and we don't know much about this, but it's very, very fascinating, interesting, okay? And important, actually. So when we are ready, we make a connection with those who are going into this and awakening their relationships with the source. So the source, in this respect, in this incarnation, was Krishna. Okay? So Krishna, this is a story about Krishna, God coming here and relating to his devotees and awakening souls, and awakening this love for God, this love for, this is, see, and this doesn't usually awaken, very rarely it awakens, but It usually doesn't awaken unless we're associating with God himself when he comes, or representative, somebody who's already devotionally inclined and devotionally related. That's called an enlightened and awakened soul, okay, at this level. It's actually a very high stage of enlightenment, because you can be enlightened at other stages and not understand anything about this kind of relationship, which is very, it's really the ultimate happiness. So, and even the Lord himself likes to engage in these loving exchanges with his devotees, because it's a happiness that is just really amazing. It's really relishable. There's nothing greater that I've found in this world. I mean, basically, we're all trying to experience some kind of happiness in this world. We usually, get it through sense enjoyment. There's a kind of a happiness in enjoying food and all that. I mean, it's not that we're got to throw that out, but there, it's like there's other kinds of ways to be happy. There's happiness that we get from sexual relations, happiness from even going to the bathroom. I mean, there's it kind of feels good to relieve ourselves. It's a kind of a happiness, see, like this. Well, there's a happiness that's the greatest happiness that's awakened when we feel this relationship with our source, this devotional love for God. See, this is this love, and not only for God, but to see God everywhere also, to feel God's presence in other people. There's no greater happiness than that. As far as I'm not there all the time, but when I do experience things and glimpse that, that's the best I've found. So basically, in essence, this book is about these kind of relationships of God and his devotees, and it's actually described. You can hear that the Lord is crying when he's thinking of his devotees. See. So a little background on this: when Krishna comes, or any of the incarnations actually comes, they bring an entourage with them. That there are particular devotees who love them in a certain way, with a certain mood and temperament. They come along. So Krishna had, when he came here 5,000 years ago, he had different types of devotees that he would intimately relate to, and it's described actually that about these relationships that he had, and they were like sectioned off into different, they call dhams, or places where these groups of devotees would relate to God in a particular manifestation. Krishna had three main dhams, or places where he had these intimate exchanges with different types of devotees of different temperaments. So it was kind of sectioned off, because even though everyone is worshiping the same God, not everybody realizes that. A lot of people think that their God is the only God. People think, like even we see this now, people think that when they're worshiping Jesus, he's it, and he's the one, he's the Father, or one with the Father. They have different ideas about that, the teaching. Okay. So therefore, that's why Christians hang out with Christians, because they think this is the only God, and if you want to be connected with the God, the real God, you have to enter the group and get converted. Otherwise, you can't really participate. See, and not everybody's willing. Some people are Hindus, and they have their groups. Muslims also, their little group, and they're worshiping what they think is the real God and the only God, usually. And if you don't convert over, you can't participate in this worship. Well, this is kind of like more of a beginning stage of understanding truth. the truth. The truth is, it's like the deeper truth of God and how God really, in his real nature, is God is like an actor. He has various kinds of people and devotees who worship him in various ways, in various moods, and various temperaments. So he accepts that worship because he loves devotion. Devotion is actually the greatest happiness that money can't buy. So he loves devotion, and he loves those who are looking towards him. Whether it's a person in an AA meeting who knows him as the greater power, higher power. Will the Lord accept? Oh, this person, he's looking towards me. Okay? So, and he offers a reciprocal relation. It helps the person get off alcohol and all these things, because God can do anything. See, same thing with a Christian, a sincere Christian. He's surrendering and giving his life to Christ, and he asks, "Oh Father, oh Lord, take care of me," and all of this. He feels these reciprocal, devotional, loving exchanges, and you get addicted to it. Anyone who is deep in worshiping their God, whether it's Krishna or Christ or Jesus or Allah, if they're really sincere and they're worshiping the Lord, they're going to get some kind of reciprocation. And there's various levels of that. Okay. This book is about the deepest level of reciprocation that one can get in one's worship of God. It was written by a very, very deep worshiper of the Lord called Sanatana Goswami 500 years ago. Anyway, these topics are very, very deep and mysterious also. If you wonder why I'm looking back and forth, it's because I'm broadcasting on two platforms. I have one cell phone here on Meerkat, and we have Google+. So I'm kind of looking at both cameras here, back and forth. Yeah. So this is very interesting, and this actually, what we're talking about here can help make sense. So you wonder why are Christians so, like exclusive, and why are Muslims so exclusive, and actually Hindu Vaishnavas are not so exclusive, and I'll tell you why. Actually, we'll get into this. It depends on what you're taught in your particular scriptures. See? So as far as I haven't studied the Quran, but I assume it's kind of like this. But it is in the Bible, especially the New Testament. It's the paradigms, the way God is. It's taught about God is you have to go only one way to get to the Lord. That's both. It's kind of both right and not right. It's not complete truth. So it needs some explanation or purport, which we might get into here. So the scriptures, the various scriptures, like the Bible, say, let's take the Bible. It says that Jesus, well, it doesn't really say. It says, "I am the way, the life, and the truth. No one comes up to the Father but by me." It doesn't actually say Jesus, but everybody infers that it is Jesus it's talking about. So basically that just wipes out, if I believe that, and I believe in these scriptures, and I interpret them that way, that just wipes out everything else is irrelevant. That means no other path works. No other path is true. Everybody's going the wrong way, but a Christian that's going that way. Okay. So that's the paradigm that's in those scriptures of the Bible. So people functioning in that belief system and that paradigm, it just filters everything else out, and then one just sees reality like that. Okay? But in the Hindu scriptures, I think the Quran is similar to that idea, and that's why everybody thinks you got to convert over. That's a Muslim. You got to become Muslim, and then you're not an infidel anymore. But the Hindu scriptures are a little different. Even though they believe in a particular, well, actually, they talk about many manifestations of the one supreme God, like Krishna, Lord Chaitanya, Lord Ramachandra, Buddha. Even they claim as an incarnation of the Lord, and others. So their paradigm it's exclusive on one God, yet many different manifestations. Therefore, they can accept Jesus as a bona fide link to the Father. So, because it's in their paradigm. They believe, because what they believe in their scriptures that are taught is that there's one God with many manifestations. Okay. So now these different manifestations, here's another part of that angle, is these different manifestations not always give the same revelation or the same truth or the same level of it, the same revelations. See, so it depends on the work of these different avatars when they come here. Avatar means like a great savior. Right? So Krishna came out and he gave this very, very deep relationship with the source. Very, very deep, very, very intimate, and very, very ecstatic. Very, where you just transform into a different kind of person. It's actually this kind of love and devotion for God is so deep and so intense that people get bewildered when they see it. If you see somebody going through an intimate experience of God to the level that Krishna manifested here in this world, this kind of love, people get, like they think it's crazy actually, because there's so much tears and so much crying, shivering, sometimes shaking, so intense, so intimate. But to the person experiencing this, they're like in bliss and ecstasy. Okay. So it's good, but to an onlooker who has not awakened, they're not awake yet to this. They think it's weird. They think there's something wrong. Even a person enlightened on the level of Eckhart Tolle, say, like, just to use him as an example, like Eckhart Tolle, who is very, very grave and very enlightened, if he saw a person that was like relating to the source, like, which is different than his, he might think, oh, this is a little crazy too, because my relationship to the source is different. He's more like equipoised and peaceful, and then you see a person that's loving God in this deep way, and they're like just shivering and shaking and crying torrents of tears, and I think it's kind of odd. Some Christians, liberal Christians, are getting to this point. They're actually experiencing very, very deep ecstasy because of their faith in Jesus. This seems to be being released in this world. People are experiencing this more. Okay, so this book here is about these kind of relationships. You'll see God he's relating to his devotees and he's very ecstatic about it. So I'll read some of these verses. Oh yeah, okay, yeah, and so some of these very, very deep devotees who are loving God or loving their source, these intimate exchanges, they're so deep into it that when the Lord is here, even on this planet, he has a place for them where it doesn't disturb the minds of other people who cannot understand their way of loving God. It's so deep. Okay. It's just like now, if you notice there's a section of Christians. If you haven't noticed it, you'll maybe start noticing now. And plus, with the internet, we have access to so much. There's a section of Christians, very liberal Christians, and they are going very deep into ecstasy, where they're just people, even their own groups think, many of them who are not awakened to this level think they're crazy, think they're doing something wrong. But they're actually doing something very, very right. See, and it's very ecstatic. Okay. Okay. I don't know. I think that's enough for now. I'm gonna cook some dinner here. I want to thank everybody for coming. That's an introduction. If you have any questions, you can comment, ask questions, let me know. All right, have a nice day, everybody. Until our next broadcast.